Hello patrons, and welcome back to our third tutorial for December. Today we're going to be working on a koala, and not just any koala, a grumpy koala, because that was the fan favorite of the spread that I did in my Hanamula sketchbook, which I'm realizing now I probably should show you if you haven't already seen it. Let me open that up real quick. Where are the koalas? Wow. How's this for riveting tutorial footage, huh? Okay. Here are the koalas. So I did a full body. I did one kind of like looking over his shoulder, and then we had the grumpy guy. And people really liked the grumpy guy. So that is what we're going to be doing today. Let me set him up. Nope. You know, I love this size sketchbook, but it's so long that it's not super handy if you need to put it off to the side somewhere. All right, so I've got my reference photo on my phone. I'll put it in the description below so you can go ahead and find that. It's from Pixabay. And I'm gonna be using some new watercolor paper. I've never done anything on this, not even swatches. So we're gonna see how this goes. Tiffany, who's one of our longtime viewers, she used to be a patron and she's now a very good friend of mine. She gave this to me when I was down in Southern California for my birthday / BlizzCon, and from everything that I've gathered, I'm pretty sure this is a cellulose paper. They have a guide in here. There's nothing on the packaging that says it's cotton, and then up here it says our cellulose fibers are made are internally and externally sized for optimal absorbency and strength. So I'm pretty sure that this is a wood pulp paper, but it also says that this is an archival grade wood pulp paper, and it's made on a cylinder mold. So it feels almost like a cotton, like it's very, very close to a cotton. I've divided the page, which is a 9 by 12, into 2 halves because I wanted to do a smaller painting for this one. So we're just gonna center this so you guys can see that all right. So we've got our little guy down here. We're going to be using our Nila Coloris one more time before we kind of put them aside to work on some other Christmas gifts. But I really liked the Vivianite in this one for Koala specifically. So I've drawn my sketch here pretty much based on the reference photo. Mine was hand-drawn, but you can print off the reference photo if you want to go ahead and trace that. And it is a little bit darker than I normally do with my pencil lines, but I wanted you, one, to be able to see it, and two, because this is gray, I wanted to kind of experiment with having a sketchier, visible line art in it. So we're gonna give it a shot. With that being said, let's go ahead and jump on in. Need to remember to breathe. We're doing a live recording with the new setup, so there's no editing. What you see is what you get. So I'm just gonna go in here to get my Vivianite ready and worked up. I don't have a good clean space on my palette for this, but I'm gonna go ahead and just drop it into the lid here. There's a little bit of burnt sienna, a little bit of the indigo in here. That's okay. I'm just gonna mix it up, get a nice pool going. Gonna add some more of the Vivianite, so we've got mostly that color in here. During our live stream this month, you mentioned that you wanted me to try and use some more atypical, not you specifically, I don't know if you specifically mentioned it, but a lot of people were saying that they wanted to see me use more unique supplies so that if they run across them, they'd be able to find them. But I also want to make sure they're accessible for everyone. So this color is, we talked about it in the live stream if you want to go ahead and pull that up if you didn't get a chance to see it. At the very end of the live stream, we compared all the swatches from Nila Colori with the binder, and I think the closest was, there's a limited edition color from Daniel Smith that's Vivianite. It's no longer in production anymore, but it's also kind of like a blue apatite from Daniel Smith. So if you got that blue apatite and then neutralized it a bit with a more orangey color, you might get a color that's similar. I'm trying to think, I think those were really the closest. You could also get a Payne's Gray and water it down. That wouldn't have granulation in it, and you might want to warm it up just a tiny bit, but some people don't like granulation anyway, and so if you don't want a granulating variety, get a different gray, go ahead and mute it down. Oh, you could also use just burnt sienna and ultramarine, I think, to make a nice soft gray. And I think we've been talking long enough, mixing up long enough. Let's go ahead and jump on in. So whenever I do mixing, I like to go into my painting in the most concentrated places because I have the most pigment on my brush and I don't want to waste that. So we're just going to go ahead, starting work from the left side here. I can see right now it's going down in an interesting way. It's just kind of staying where I put it. Not going anywhere. Let's go ahead and see what happens if we add a little bit of water here. I'm using the flat brush again today because I'm addicted right now. I can definitely tell there's a lot of sizing in this paper for sure. People say that arche is hard sized, and I guess because it was the first paper that I used, like I never felt like that was a thing that I commented on. But when I would use other papers, I could tell that they were softer sized, that kind of thing. The sizing makes it a little bit more resistant to the water seeping in right away. You have a little bit more time to kind of push things around. Just kind of wet some of these broad ranges. I'm not going to go into them right away with pigment. We'll at least get some water down. We can go with color in a little bit. I don't know if you can see this on the camera. There's like, it's definitely skipping over. It's a very thirsty paper where I think that the water isn't going into it right away because it wants more of it, but I could be wrong. Well, we'll have to see if that assumption holds true later. It's kind of resisting in some places. It reminds me a little bit of, you know, the circular wood, not wood, the circular cotton blocks that were going around earlier in 2018. I forget the brand name. They're distributed by Legion, but it's not a Legion paper. Those resisted water too, which is weird for a water paper, or watercolor paper. You can see over here, it started to dry a little bit unevenly. See, there's areas that are wetter, and the area in between that's dry, it's gonna leave a little canyon there. I wanna be careful because there's some areas here that are going to be white. So I want them lighter than the other areas, but they're definitely not like stark white. And I don't have the whole arm over here drawn, but we're just gonna kind of block in a little color that suggests there's another arm back there. I came down too far. This shouldn't go all the way to the other arm. True to a cellulose paper, you can very easily lift on it. At least with this color. You guys let me know, have you used the Winsor Newton paper before? I've heard good things about the cotton paper. I don't know if I've heard anything about the cellulose paper or not. All right, I might have waited too long. I had put water here, so we'll come back to that. I wanted to get it while it was still a little bit damp, but I think we waited a little bit too far past the window. So I'm just going to come into this ear here, darken that up. Add some water so we can flow out into the rest of the ear. And I think because we can't go back to the face, I think that's all we're going to do on our first layer. I'll hit it with the heat tool. Very important to move my phone out of the way when I do that. Don't want to cook the phone, and I'll be back in just a second. I'm not sure why in my head this was a block. There's no reason for it to be a block. It was just in my head, it was a block. I think because I was working on Hanamule block before. So this is not taped down to anything. It's just secured on the one end. Just in case you are wondering, it's mostly dry. There's a little bit of coolness. If you're new to the Patreon, I know we've had some new patrons lately. If you see me touch something with the back of my hand, I'm feeling for the temperature and how damp it is. Even if it doesn't feel wet, if it's cool, instead of like a room temperature or the rest of the warm paper from being under the dryer, then it is still a little bit damp inside. Cellulose paper, though, does not take as long to dry as cotton paper because it's not as absorbent. All right, so we've got some more of our Vivianite here. I'm also going to mix up on one end, I'm going to add some indigo. If you don't have indigo, you can use either an indigo hue or you could use an anthracnone blue, but I would, or not anthracnone, indanthrone blue, which is the same pigment but a little bit grayer, especially the Daniel Smith variety. I'm going to take this darker pigment and we're going to kind of just reinforce some shadows. I don't want to rinse what's on here, so I'm going to go ahead and take another flat brush. Not ideal for painting, but I'm just going to put water on it. Try and spread this out a little bit. The indigo really likes to grab on, so that one's sticking a little bit more, although it does still move around. I'm not sure that I like what I did with this edge here. I introduced a lot of water and it got really diluted. So we'll go ahead and put some of those darker tones back in there. Cricket has the zoomies, if you can hear her in the background. I need 2 of these brushes. Of course it came in a multi-pack because it's an Artist Loft brush, so. There are no duplicates there. All right, so I'm just kind of backing up that line there, which again, easy to do on a wood paper. All right, we're gonna come back in over here. I think I've mentioned this. I ordered some proper flat brushes so I can use like artist grade materials, but they're with an order with Jackson's, and I ordered some of the Jackson's paint to eventually review for the channel, and a couple of the colors that I wanted weren't in stock, so they're holding on to the order till they're there, which means I don't get my brushes, which is okay. I don't want them to have to ship it twice. I had the option of replacing, but I wanted like a mid-yellow, and they were out of the one I wanted, so they're like, here's a Rollian instead, and I was like, no thank you. I don't want a fugitive pigment. You can see in the palette the granulation separating out. I don't want to get too heavy on this side. I feel like this ear is already darker than the other ear, and this side is being hit with the light, so I want to kind of pull back the reins there. I'm going to try and wipe off as much pigment as I can so I can rinse my brush out. I'm going to go back to the Vivianite on its own. Oh, Cricket. You guys, I even fed her. I fed her early before I started recording. Still got a case of the zoomies. Trying to bring out a couple little details of hairs, long furry hairs. On the other side, they're mostly the lighter hairs that are sticking out. There was one here that was really blunt that I didn't like, so I was trying to kind of backtrack. These Nila Colori do something that I haven't seen another handmade paint do, and that I kind of like. A lot of handmade paints, when you use them over and over, they start to crack. Oopsie. They start to crack, but these ones get like these really smooth craters. That's most apparent on this one because we've used it the most. But it's a nice texture, and it's not rough. Some other brands, they get really rough and grainy. Okay, we've got some watered down Vivianite now. We're going to move on to the face. There's kind of a shadow that comes up over this eye here. I'm turning the brush depending on how thick I need my strokes to be. There's a lightness right above the nose here. Trying to save a little bit of a highlight for the eyelid here. We want the other side to be lighter because it's being hit with the sun, so we're going to water down our paint a bit more. We're going to be a little bit more deliberate with our highlights. Make sure we save them. Let's put in those darkest areas. Then we rinse off our brush. Fade them off. Second layer is looking really blue since we're onto all the Vivianite without the burnt umber in it, or burnt sienna. We might want to go over with some glazes a little bit later, but I'm going to save that for the end. Even though I was trying to keep it, we lost our highlight down here, so I'm just gonna rub with a damp brush. All right, then we're gonna go into our nose. It's going to be primarily the indigo. There's some really interesting and important contours on the nose that I had a lot of trouble with in my practice sketches. Both the darkest shadow and the highlight are on the same side, which is weird. The darkest shadow is right here, and then the highlight's right above it. I'm just gonna try and tap in. There's a crease right at the top. I'm going to dilute this now and glaze a bit over the Vivianite that's already on our page to bring in that shadow there. Kind of reinforce the curvature on the forehead. All this is with that really diluted, right here in the middle, that really diluted color. All right, I'm gonna hit this with the heat tool again, and then we'll put in some of our warmer colors and our details. Oops. All right. Lost my reference photo. Here it is. We're gonna zoom on in. This little guy's pink little nostrils. I'm not sure which color I used before. I think I like the idea of maybe the Ercolano with a little bit of ultramarine pink. This goes in the nostrils and on the chin. And a little bit around the eyes. There's a little bit of a yellow color on the chest. I'm gonna make like an earthy orange color and dilute that down. We're gonna put that on the forehead as well. I'm not sure why the laptop is having a temper tantrum right now. My goodness. You literally only have one job. I bought you as a single-purpose machine. It's a hard job, but it's only one job. Because this is a cellulose paper, I can lift out my highlights pretty darn easily. Like I lifted it too easily there. Definitely make sure you're using a nice soft brush. I feel like I ruined this side. We will let that be. We'll come back to it. Put in a little bit more contrast up here. I feel like the forehead went a little bit too far yellow, so I'm just going to pull some of our gray mixture back in. And then I'm going to go down to my size 2. Can't really tell what color the koala's eyes are in this picture, but I'm pretty sure that they usually have brown eyes. I don't have a dark brown in this set, so I'm trying to deepen this up without losing all the intensity and saturation. But it kind of looks like maybe we get one or the other. I'm gonna take some of this red. I think that'll be the best way to go about it. While that's hopefully drying, let's go ahead and tune up these nostrils a little bit. I'm adding a drop shadow here underneath the top ridge. And then also bringing in a darker concentration to kind of line the top, kind of splotch in the bottom. Whoops. Wanted something in between that. Oh, the koala noses are so weird. I know I got a lot of pushback from my koala comment on Instagram. I said I don't think they're that cute. Which I know is not popular opinion at all. So I want to add enough detail here that it reads more koala-like, it reads as a proper structure of this animal's face, but I don't want to get so detailed that we lose the looseness of the rest of the piece. I'm going to go ahead and make up more of this pink color. And kind of use it in between the gradients. And I'm realizing you guys probably can't see much of this, right? Let me get you in closer. I'm gonna have to adjust the focus. Yeah, what do you have to say about it? There we go. Now you should be able to see better. I'm just at risk of bumping the camera with my brush when it's this close. All right, we're using indigo as our black essentially in this painting. So we're gonna mix it up. We're going to this paper sure likes to hold on to cat hair. We're gonna go ahead and trace up over the top. And it looks like that was not dry. It's okay. It'll kind of make like where the pupil will sit, but I'm not gonna do the bottom edge because I don't want it to bleed up again. So that we match, let's do the other side. Oh, nope, that side is dry. All right, let me zap this really quickly. Sorry for all the back and forth. Try and soften this up a little bit over here, but if I do too much work, it's going to pick up all the pigment instead of blend them together. All right. Yeah? You know I fed you, right? There's a little too much pigment and water on this side, so I'm just trying to soak it up with the dry brush. And this side of the nostril is being really difficult, so we're going to go ahead and reinforce that. Go ahead and do a little bit of fine detail shading around the eyes. Has all this been working okay? Are you guys in focus? I didn't press the OK button. I'm sorry. Hopefully that's been okay. Got my neighbors started playing their music. That hasn't happened since I got the new setup, so hopefully everything's still okay. For you guys, that is. If you can't hear my laptop that's like huffing and puffing next to the microphone, I would hope that you can't hear the neighbor's music. It sounds like a karaoke machine or something. Doesn't sound like pre-recorded music. Maybe it was a Christmas gift. All right, I think we're ready for details already. That worked up pretty quickly. Back to our usual. Oops, sorry, I bumped the camera as promised, as I said I would. I'm gonna add more brown pigment here. And some more of the indigo. The highlight on the left should not be bigger than the highlight on the right. I like this side better, but I can't really take that away, so I'm gonna make this bigger. And I'm just gonna try and gently fix this by putting some more pigment down on top. Kind of scooping it up with my brush. Let's not tempt fate and overwork that, hey? Yeah, someone is playing drums upstairs. That's not something that should happen in an apartment. I'm just pulling in a couple of little details where the whites are most prominent. Oopsie. Well, all that work I did might just be gone right now. Drop some water onto the eye. Yep, looks like we're starting over. So that's probably the biggest issue with cellulose paper for the way that I work, is that when I'm doing the final details on the eyes, I'm using the small brushes and the water drops are more likely to get stuck on the ferrule and drop down, which is ultimately my fault, but you just want to be careful of that. And when you're using cellulose paper, when you go to pick up that water drop, the rest of the paint might just come with it. So be really good if you want to fix mistakes, but is also really frustrating if you're someone who likes to work in layers. I'm going to dry this because it's all freshly wet. And then we're going to go ahead and drop this brown back in here, reddish brown anyway. Bring some of that gold ochre in to make it more brown. We did have the chance to fix that highlight at least. I think I want to do one more adjustment layer to our values. And that's to the shadow back here. There wasn't much of a separation between the body and the face. And just to tie everything together, I'm going to bring that shadow color, that cooler color, into this side as well. I think that'll do it, guys. Did we do it? We did it. We did it in an hour. Look at that. I can do something in an hour. Well, I guess it's not entirely true because I sketched before we started, right? Anyway, I'm proud of it. I had a lot of fun with this chubby little guy. It was fun making this little teeny tiny sketch into a much larger version of himself. And I hope you enjoyed the painting, especially the person who requested it. So I think this is it. This is the last one for 2018 before we head into 2019. So I will see you in the new year. And until next time, happy painting.